Welcome to the November 20th, 2023 Advance Report from McGowanGroup clients and NetWorthRadio.com listeners. Great news this week. I'm going to dive right into the great news first. Inflation for the month of October was 0. Inflation died in October, and we're going to look at the overall trend with the dramatic story on why this is great news. Remember, in the news reports, you've heard Fed tightening cycle. The Fed's going to keep raising rates. They're going to keep rates higher for longer. Boom. Great news. All of that was dispersed this week, and the big forecasters at Goldman, UBS, and Morgan Stanley changed their forecast that the Fed would be coming down as much as 3% from current levels. That's a wow. And it says, what's the real story on inflation? Come back here to June of 2022 for a single month, 1.2%. That would annualize at about 15%. That is absolutely huge inflation, 1970s style. Let's look at the chart. This is great news. Inflation then began to descend. And those of you that are longtime YouTube watchers on our station understand that we started to predict this with the July inflation numbers and inflation coming down here. This is great news for the equity markets. We'll get to the Dow in just a second. You could see this tick up here, and it sent shockwaves through the markets in September, October, sent shockwaves through the bond markets. Now, back to a 3.2% inflation rate. That is just below the 110-year average for inflation. That's not going to be the big story of 24, and the forecasts have changed dramatically with that great news. I'm Spencer McGowan, your financial weatherman, with your weekly fast-paced tour of the global financial markets. I'm founder and president of McGowanGroup Wealth Management, a team of 10, team that cares, doing great research each and every week to help our clients make great decisions in the year ahead. And if you want to set a time to come down for a brainstorming session or a Zoom call, then go to NetWorthRadio.com. Contact us there. It's easy to find us and you can meet the team. Let's get a little bit deeper into this week's great news. So here on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, at that great news, the Dow spiked back over 35,000. So that's, and this other line right here is with dividends. But in any case, the Dow hit 35,000 again. It hit it in August, and the last time before that was 19 months ago. So you could see relatively what we've been through on the Fed tightening cycle. There's another piece of good news in here. Producer prices. Now that translates to corporate profits. Producer prices hit a high inflation rate, trailing 12 months, 18% right here in June of 22. That was the big inflation from the reopening and the supply chain issues. Then we descended into deflation for producer prices. Yes, deflation. The trailing 12 months is just 1.4%. That's below the Fed target. What is it also good for? Corporate profits. This was deflation for the month of October in producer prices. That says their costs are coming down, likely to say profits are coming up. This chart's a little hard to read. I'm just going to paraphrase it. The big guys changed their forecasts this week with UBS, Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs coming to the realization. Well, this was one of the research pieces we've been covering. The Fed actually said before September in their projections that they were going to bring the rates back down to 2.5% over the next 3 years. All they had to do was read what the Federal Reserve Board members said, and they would have known that. And that's what we were bringing you right here. What else is happening? This is great news. Corporate profits announcements for the third quarter, 7.5% profit growth. Remember what I said about producer prices and profits? There it is. That is the first time that we've had a significant increase in S&P 500 earnings for the last 18 months. You're over an earnings recession. That's a wow. And then the Federal Reserve brings back down the rates likely starting next year. What does that do? That increases the value of companies over the longer term. All right, what's the economy doing? 2.2% is the Atlanta Fed's growth estimate. All the learned economists were down here at really anemic growth. 2.2 is pretty healthy, and it's not dissimilar from the long-term average. And that's for the current quarter, and they just raised it a little bit this week. Microsoft. Remember back in March, we had that banking crisis and the Dow descended, everything looked really ugly. And in March, Microsoft went to about the 260 level. We added it in the model portfolios. It is not a recommendation for your portfolio. And yes, we do have things in the portfolio that didn't go up. However, this is a great example because Microsoft is the leader in AI and making money at artificial intelligence. Not an unreasonable price compared to, say, an NVIDIA. Just wanted to give you an example of what we were doing in the March correction automatically for our clients. I'd like to do a plan for you for the next 10 years, and if you'd like to set a time to do that, just find us at networthradio.com. Thank you for tuning in today to Net Worth Media. We also have Apple Podcast. Simply type in Net Worth Radio and boom, it'll hit your phone right then. If you also go to networthradio.com on a browser, you're going to be able to meet the team. You can see our performance track record, the model portfolios that go with today's broadcast. Also at networthradio.com, the longer play podcast is available there as well. We're grateful that you've tuned in. Remember, when we talk about a security, it doesn't make it a recommendation for your portfolio until we actually complete a written plan for you by Zoom or in office or simply a conference call. So you reach us at networthradio.com if you want to get that arranged. Market fluctuations and how to handle them. We build high cash flow portfolios, and past performance doesn't guarantee future results, so you do have to be ready for challenging markets. We can build more cash flow during challenging markets than we can when everybody's happy and everything's up, which is when we tend to raise tactical safety. Those allocation strategies are here at networthradio.com. Thank you for tuning in.